the time Daniel Hale became rich enough to buy the whole town that had once laughed at him, there was only one thing in the world he still could not own. One golden summer from 30 years ago, and the girl who had walked out of it wearing a white dress, carrying his heart as if it were nothing heavier than a folded letter. Some people spend their lives chasing money. Some chase power, or applause, or a house with windows tall enough to catch the sunset. But Daniel, though the world called him a millionaire, though newspapers printed his name beside photographs of shining buildings and quiet gardens, had only ever been chasing the sound of one girl's laughter drifting across a field of wild grass beneath the August moon. Her name was Clara Bell, and once, before life grew complicated, before money became a wall between them, before years gathered like snow on the roof of memory, Clara Bell had loved him too. Daniel first saw her when he was 17, on a June afternoon so warm the road shimmered like water. He was walking home from the mill with dust on his boots and splinters in his palms, carrying 2 paper bags of groceries for his mother. The town of Alderbrook was small then, tucked between low green hills and a river that moved slowly, as if even the water was too sleepy to hurry. He saw Clara standing beside the old stone bridge, trying to fix the chain on her bicycle. Her dark hair was tied with a blue ribbon, and her sleeves were rolled to her elbows. She had grease on her fingers and sunlight on her face. Daniel stopped without meaning to. She looked up and smiled. Not a polite smile, not a practiced smile, a real one, the kind that entered a person like music. "Do you know anything about bicycles?" she asked. Daniel looked at the crooked chain, then at her, then back at the chain, afraid that if he looked too long at her face, she would hear his heart. "A little," he said, "enough to pretend." Clara laughed, and the summer began. He fixed the chain with careful hands while she held the bicycle steady. When he was done, his fingers were black with grease, and Clara took out a handkerchief from the pocket of her dress. "Here," she said, "it'll ruin it." "It's only cloth." Daniel took it, but he did not wipe his hands right away. The handkerchief smelled faintly of lavender. He remembered that smell for the rest of his life. She told him her name. He told her his. Then she rode away over the bridge, her blue ribbon fluttering behind her like a little flag of farewell. That evening, Daniel placed the lavender handkerchief in the top drawer of his bedside table. He told himself he would wash it and return it the next day. He did not wash it, and he did not return it the next day, because the next day he saw Clara again at the market, and she said, "I was wondering if you stole my handkerchief." Daniel felt his face warm. "I was going to bring it back, but you didn't." "No." "Good," she said softly. "Then you have a reason to see me again." After that, their summer grew around them like a secret garden. Every morning, Daniel worked at the mill, lifting timber, sweeping sawdust, stacking planks until his arms ached. He was poor, but he was strong, and he had the steady patience of someone who had never expected life to be easy. Every afternoon, he found a way to see Clara. Sometimes they met by the river, where dragonflies skimmed over the water and willow branches touched the surface like tired fingers. Sometimes they walked the hill road above town, where the fields opened wide and the sky looked endless. Sometimes, when the heat lay heavy over Alderbrook, they sat in the shade behind the bakery and shared one lemon tart, because Daniel could only afford one. Clara never complained. She would break the tart in half and always give him the larger piece. "You'll need it," she'd say. "You work too hard." "I don't mind work." "I know." She would look at him then, her eyes soft. "That's what worries me." Daniel did not understand what she meant, not fully. He thought love was simple. He thought if a man loved a woman enough, he could build a life around her with his own two hands. And Daniel loved Clara with everything he had. Everything. He saved coins in a tin beneath his mattress. Coins meant for boots, for new shirts, for medicine for his mother, sometimes even for food. But when Clara admired a silver hair comb in the window of Mr. Elwood's shop, Daniel worked 3 extra evenings at the mill and bought it for her. She opened the small paper package by the river. "Daniel," she breathed, "this is too much. It looked like you. How can a comb look like me?" "It shines," he said. Clara's eyes filled with something he thought was happiness. She leaned close and kissed his cheek, so gently he barely felt it. But he felt it for 30 years. Another time, when the fair came through Alderbrook, Daniel had only enough money for 1 ticket to the little wooden Ferris wheel. He bought it for Clara. "Aren't you coming?" she asked. "I've seen the town from high places before." "No, you haven't. I've climbed trees." "That is not the same." He smiled and shook his head. "Go on." So Clara rode alone, turning slowly above the lamps and music, and Daniel stood below with his hands in his pockets, looking up at her as if she were the moon. When she came down, she slipped her hand into his. "You should have come with me," she said. "I did," Daniel answered. She looked at him, confused. He tapped his chest. "Here." And Clara, who could be playful and bright and sometimes a little proud, became quiet. She rested her head against his shoulder as they walked home through the sound of fiddles and distant laughter. That summer, Daniel gave Clara small things, because small things were all he had. Wildflowers tied with string, a smooth white stone from the river, a wooden bird he carved from a scrap of cedar, a notebook with a blue cover because she once said she wanted to write poems, but had nowhere to put them. Clara gave him dreams. She spoke of cities with theaters and shops brighter than daylight. She spoke of houses with staircases that curved, of dresses made of silk, of rooms where no one worried about coal or bread or rent. Daniel listened carefully. "One day," he told her, "I'll give you a house like that." Clara smiled, but her smile had begun to change. It was still beautiful, but sometimes it looked as if part of it belonged somewhere else. "Daniel," she said one evening as they sat by the river, "love doesn't fill a cupboard." He looked at the water. "No," he said, "but I will." She turned to him. "How?" "I'll work." "You already work." "Then I'll work harder." She reached for his hand. "That's what I mean. I don't want you to spend your whole life breaking yourself. For you, I would." The words were true, too true. They frightened her. By late August, the fields around Alderbrook had turned gold. The nights came sooner. The air smelled faintly of apples and wood smoke. Summer was ending, though Daniel refused to notice. Clara's father had died when she was young, and her mother took in sewing. They lived in a narrow house with peeling paint and a roof that leaked when the rain came hard. Clara had grown up watching her mother count coins by candlelight, and Daniel slowly began to understand that poverty had frightened Clara long before he ever met her. Then Victor Ashford arrived. He came from the city in a polished motor car, wearing a linen suit and a watch that flashed at his wrist. His family owned hotels, 2 factories, and half the warehouses near the coast. He was handsome in a careless way, with hair brushed back and a voice that made every sentence sound like an invitation. He noticed Clara at the church picnic. Everyone did. She wore a white dress that day, the silver comb in her hair. Daniel had never seen her look more beautiful. He stood beside her under the oak trees, holding a plate of strawberries, when Victor approached and bowed as if Alderbrook were a ballroom. "Miss Bell," he said, "I don't believe we've been introduced." Clara blushed. Daniel saw it. Something inside him tightened, but he smiled anyway because he trusted her. Trust can be a candle in a windy room. Victor stayed in town for business, or so he said. He began appearing wherever Clara happened to be. At the market, outside the bakery, near the bridge. He sent flowers to her house. Real flowers from a city florist, not wildflowers gathered from a field. He invited Clara and her mother to dinners at the inn. He spoke kindly to Clara's mother, and Clara's mother, tired from years of worry, began to look at him the way a drowning person looks at a boat. Daniel had no motor car, no watch, no linen suit. He had only his hands, his heart, and a tin of coins beneath his mattress. One evening, he found Clara waiting near the bridge where they had first met. The sunset had turned the river copper. Her blue ribbon was gone. Her hair was pinned neatly, the silver comb shining at the side. "Daniel," she said. He knew from the way she spoke his name. The world seemed to grow very quiet. "Victor has asked me to go with him to the city," she said. "He says there are opportunities there for my mother, for me." Daniel stared at her. "And what did you say?" Clara looked down. "I said I would think about it." "Think about leaving?" She swallowed. "Yes." He stepped back as if the word had touched him like fire. "I can take care of you," he said. Her eyes filled with tears. "Not yet." "Then wait for me." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." "That is easy for you to say because you believe waiting is proof of love." "It is." "No," Clara whispered. "Sometimes it is proof of hunger." Daniel did not shout. He was not a shouting man. He stood beneath the fading light, and all the gifts he had ever given her seemed suddenly small. "I gave you everything I could," he said. "I know. No, Clara, everything." Her tears slipped down her cheeks. "That is why I have to go, because I can't bear to keep taking from you." He shook his head. "You're not leaving because of that." She said nothing. "You're leaving because he has money." At last, Clara looked at him. There was shame in her face, and fear, and something harder than both. "Yes," she said, "because he has money. Because money means my mother sleeps under a roof that doesn't leak. Money means I don't spend my life counting candles. Money means I can breathe." Daniel's chest rose and fell. "And love?" Clara closed her eyes. When she opened them, her voice was almost gone. "I thought love would be enough." Daniel nodded slowly, as if she had taught him the final rule of the world. Then he reached into his coat pocket and took out the lavender handkerchief. He had carried it all summer, folded carefully close to his heart. He offered it to her. She did not take it. "Keep it," she whispered. "Why?" "So you remember me kindly." Daniel laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "I will remember you," he said. "Kindly or not, I don't know." Clara left 3 days later. The whole town seemed to know before Daniel did. He heard the motor car outside her house at dawn. He rose from bed and walked there without putting on his coat. Mist lay over the street. The birds were just beginning their small, hopeful songs. Victor's car waited by the gate. Clara stood beside it, wearing the white dress. Daniel stopped across the road. She saw him. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Clara walked toward him. Her gloved hands trembled. "Daniel." He looked past her at the car, at the trunks, at Victor sitting inside with his clean collar and shining watch. "Are you happy?" Daniel asked. Clara's lips parted. "I will be," she said. It was the cruelest answer because it was honest. Daniel nodded. Then he took something from his pocket. It was the wooden bird he had carved for her, the one she had returned the night before because she said it hurt too much to keep it. He held it out. "Take it," he said. She shook her head. "I can't." "You can. It weighs almost nothing." Clara covered her mouth with her hand. Daniel placed the little bird on the stone wall between them. "Then leave it," he said. He turned and walked away. Behind him, Clara called his name once. Only once. He did not turn around, but all his life, some part of him did. After Clara left, Alderbrook became a place of ghosts. The bridge held her smile. The market held her voice. The river held the reflection of two young people who had once believed summer could last forever. Daniel worked. At first, he worked because stopping hurt too much. He took every shift at the mill. He delivered timber. He repaired fences. he carried stones. When his hands split, he wrapped them and kept working. When his mother worried, he kissed her forehead and told her he was fine. He was not fine. At night, he opened the top drawer and looked at the lavender handkerchief. The scent faded little by little, but memory replaced it. He read no letters from Clara because none came. He heard rumors. Victor had taken her to the city. Victor had bought her dresses. Victor had introduced her to grand people. Victor had married her in a hotel with chandeliers. Daniel did not go to the wedding. He stayed in the mill until after dark, sanding a plank of walnut until it shone smooth beneath his palm. Wood comforted him. Wood did not lie. It had grain, knots, scars, and patience. It became what steady hands shaped it to be. So Daniel began shaping. He made tables from discarded boards, chairs from broken beams, cradles, cabinets, doors, bed frames. At first he sold them to neighbors for a few coins, then to shops in other towns, then to hotels along the coast. Years moved. His mother passed gently one winter morning, holding his hand and telling him, "Do not let sorrow be the only woman in your house." Daniel promised. But promises made beside deathbeds are sometimes made by people too broken to keep them. He never married, not because no one loved him. Some did. A school teacher with kind eyes, a widow who brought him pies, a merchant's daughter who admired his quiet strength. But every time Daniel tried to open the door of his heart, he found Clara standing there in her white dress, looking back at him from across a road filled with dawn mist. At 30, Daniel opened a workshop. At 35, he owned 3. At 40, his furniture stood in hotels, banks, and private homes from Alderbrook to the capital. People liked his work because it carried warmth. Every chair seemed to remember a tree. Every table seemed to invite tired hands to rest. He did not spend his wealth loudly. He bought the old mill, repaired it, and turned it into a factory where men were paid fairly and widows were hired to manage the books. He built cottages for his workers. He restored the bridge. He quietly paid debts for families who never knew his name. By 47, Daniel Hale was no longer the poor boy from Alderbrook. He was Mr. Hale, then Mr. Daniel Hale, then simply Hale, written across brass plaques and office doors and shipping crates. By 50, he owned the largest furniture and restoration company in the region. He had houses he rarely slept in, gardens he rarely walked through, and a black car with leather seats that smelled of rain and polish. But in his private room, in the top drawer of an old bedside table he refused to replace, there remained a lavender handkerchief, folded like a prayer. The girl he never forgot. 30 years after that summer, Daniel returned to Alderbrook to open the Hale River House. a grand hotel built from an old estate overlooking the water. It had wide verandas, soft lamps, polished floors, and windows that caught the evening light. People came from the city to sleep beneath its quiet roof and listen to the river at night. Daniel did not need to be there for the hiring of staff, but he went anyway. Perhaps age had made him sentimental. Perhaps the sight of the river pulled him back. Or perhaps life, which has a strange patience of its own, had been waiting 30 years to close a circle. It was raining the morning he saw Clara again. Not the silver rain of spring, but a soft autumn rain that made the world look blurred around the edges. Daniel stood in the hotel lobby beside a vase of white lilies, reviewing papers with his manager, Mrs. Vale. "There is one more applicant for the housekeeping position," Mrs. Vale said. "She came recommended from the city. Quiet woman, hard-working by the sound of it. She needs employment urgently." Daniel nodded without much interest. Then the door opened. A woman stepped inside, lowering the hood of her dark coat. Daniel's pen stopped moving. The lobby faded. The lilies, the lamps, the polished floor, the rain against the windows, all of it drifted away. Only she remained, Clara Bell. She was no longer 17. Time had touched her face with fine lines and silver at her temples. Her hands, once soft and quick around bicycle chains and blue ribbons, were worn from work. Her dress was plain. Her shoes were old. There was no silver comb in her hair, but her eyes were the same. Daniel knew them instantly. Clara saw him too. For a moment, she looked as if the air had been taken from the room. Her fingers tightened around the handle of her small suitcase. Mrs. Vale turned. "Mrs. Ashford, this is Mr. Hale, the owner." Mrs. Ashford. The name crossed the room like a cold wind. Daniel recovered first. Years had taught him stillness. Wealth had taught him how not to reveal pain. "Mrs. Ashford," he said. Clara lowered her eyes. "Mr. Hale." Mrs. Vale, unaware of the past standing between them, continued speaking. "Mrs. Ashford has experience managing laundry and guest rooms. Her references say she is dependable." Daniel looked at Clara's suitcase. One latch was tied with string. "Very well," he said. "Give her the position." Clara's head lifted in surprise. Mrs. Vale smiled. "Wonderful. I'll show you to the staff quarters." But Daniel raised a hand gently. "A moment first." Mrs. Vale left them alone. Rain whispered against the windows. For 30 years, Daniel had imagined what he would say if Clara ever stood before him again. He had imagined anger. He had imagined cold politeness. He had imagined asking whether the money had kept her warm. He had imagined turning away as she once had. But now, seeing her with tired eyes and a suitcase tied with string, all those imagined words seemed childish. Time had humbled them both. Clara spoke first. "I did not know this hotel was yours." Daniel believed her. "No," he said. "I suppose you wouldn't." "I can leave." "You applied for work, yes? Then you need work." Her face colored faintly. "Yes." Daniel looked toward the river beyond the window. The rain softened everything outside. "What happened to Victor?" he asked. Clara's mouth trembled at the name. "He died 8 years ago. Debts came after that, then lawsuits. The Ashford fortune was not what people thought." Daniel said nothing. "He liked to appear rich," she continued. "For a while, appearance was enough, until it wasn't. And you? I learned the difference between being bought beautiful things and being cared for." The words were quiet. Daniel felt them settle somewhere old inside him. Clara looked at him then. "I am sorry, Daniel." His name, in her voice, after 30 years. It moved through him like the river after winter ice. "You were 17, he said. "So were you." "I was poor. I was afraid." There was no thunder, no dramatic music, no door flung open by fate. Only rain and 2 people standing in a lobby scented with lilies and polished wood. Clara reached into the pocket of her coat. "I kept something," she said. Daniel watched as she opened her hand. There, worn smooth by years of touch, lay a small wooden bird. The bird he had left on the stone wall. He stared at it. "You took it after you walked away," she whispered. "I waited until you were gone. Then I took it and held it in the car all the way to the city." Daniel could not speak. "It was the only thing I had that was truly given to me," Clara said. "Not displayed, not purchased to impress. Given." Daniel looked at the bird, at the tiny carved wings, at the place where the wood had darkened from her fingers. "You should have written," he said. "I wrote 100 letters. I received none. I never sent them." A sad smile touched her mouth. "Cowardice is sometimes very organized." Daniel almost laughed. "Almost." "Instead," he said, "Mrs. Vale will show you to your room." Clara closed her hand around the bird. "Will it be difficult," she asked softly, "for me to work here?" Daniel thought of the boy he had been, standing in the mist with his heart breaking open. Then he thought of the man he had become, surrounded by everything except the one thing he had wanted most. "Yes," he said, "but not impossible." Clara began work that afternoon. She wore a gray uniform and moved quietly through the halls of Hale River House, smoothing sheets, folding towels, polishing mirrors until they held the light. No one knew she had once been the girl who lived in Daniel Hale's heart. To the staff, she was simply Mrs. Ashford, polite, reserved, a little sad. Daniel saw her from a distance. In the dining room, placing fresh flowers on tables. On the staircase, carrying linens in the garden after sunset, standing alone beneath the dripping trees. He did not call for her. He did not seek her out, but every room seemed aware of her. Every footstep reminded him of summer roads and bicycle chains. Days passed into weeks. Autumn deepened. The hills burned red and gold. Guests came and went, praising the hotel's quiet comfort. At night, when the lamps were low and the river murmured beyond the windows, Daniel often walked the veranda alone. One evening, he found Clara there. She stood near the railing, her hands folded, looking out at the moonlit water. "I can leave," she said, without turning. "If this pains you." Daniel came to stand beside her. "This hotel is large enough for 2 old ghosts." She smiled faintly. They listened to the river. After a while, Clara said, "I used to dream of rich rooms." Daniel glanced at her. "Chandeliers," she continued. "Silk curtains. Tables long enough for 20 guests. I thought such rooms would make me feel safe." Did they? For a little while. She rested her hand on the railing. "Then I learned rooms can be full of gold and still feel empty." Daniel did not answer. "What did you dream of?" she asked. He looked at the water. "A house with you in it." Clara closed her eyes. The words were not accusation, not even confession. They were simply a truth laid gently between them, like a blanket over sleeping ground. "I don't deserve to hear that," she whispered. "Deserve has very little to do with memory." "Did you hate me?" "Yes," she nodded. "And then?" she asked. Daniel breathed slowly. "Then I missed you. Then I worked. Then I became someone people admired. Then I realized admiration is a poor substitute for being known." Clara wiped at her cheek. "I thought of you," she said, "more than I had any right to." Daniel's voice softened. "When? When I saw lavender? When I heard fair music? When Victor bought me things I did not ask for? When I slept in rooms too large for one lonely person? When my mother died? When the money left? When people stopped inviting me to dinner?" She paused. "When I was most ashamed." A long silence followed. Then Daniel said, "I still have the handkerchief." Clara turned toward him. "The lavender one?" "Yes." "It must be dust by now." "Nearly." Her laugh trembled, but it was real. For one small moment, the years fell away. Daniel heard the girl on the bridge asking if he knew anything about bicycles. He smiled before he could stop himself. Clara saw it, and something gentle moved across her face. Winter came quietly to Alderbrook. The river slowed beneath pale morning mist. Frost silvered the veranda rails. Guests gathered near fireplaces with books and tea, while snow began to powder the hills. Clara worked hard. Too hard, Daniel thought. She arrived early and stayed late. She refused favors. When Mrs. Vale suggested she rest, Clara only smiled and said there was always one more thing to do. One night, during a heavy snow, Daniel found her in the laundry room, sitting on a wooden stool with one hand pressed to her chest. "You're pale," he said. She startled. "I'm fine. You were always a poor liar. And you were always too observant." He called for the doctor. Clara protested, but gently. Age had softened her pride, or perhaps exhaustion had. The doctor said it was not serious if she rested, but serious if she did not. The next morning, Daniel arranged for lighter duties. Clara came to his office at once. "You cannot do that," she said. He looked up from his desk. "I already did. I came here to work, not to be pitied." "I am not pitying you." "Then what are you doing?" Daniel folded his hands. "Caring," he said. The word entered the room and stayed there. Clara's eyes filled. "You should not make it so easy for me to regret everything." It was never easy. She sat in the chair across from him. For the first time, Daniel noticed how tired she truly was. Not just from labor, but from carrying the long, invisible weight of choices that could not be unchosen. "I thought money would save me," Clara said. Daniel's voice was quiet. "And did it?" "No, but poverty had frightened me so badly that I mistook comfort for salvation." Daniel turned the pen in his hand. "I became rich," he said, "to prove you wrong." Clara looked at him. "Then I stayed rich because people depended on me. But at first, yes, I wanted the world to say I had become more than the boy you left behind. I knew you would become something. That did not stop you from leaving." "No," she lowered her head. "It didn't." Outside, snow brushed the window with soft, white fingers. Clara looked up again. "Do you want me to go, Daniel?" He held her gaze. "No." The answer surprised them both. From then on, something changed. Not quickly, not like a fire catching, but slowly, like ice remembering it was water. Daniel and Clara began to speak. At first, only in small moments. A few words in the hallway. A shared cup of tea in the kitchen after the guests had gone to bed. Comments about the weather, the river, the way Alderbrook had changed. Safe things. Then memories. "Do you remember the fair?" Clara asked one evening. "You mean when you left me on the ground while you touched the stars?" She smiled. "I wanted you beside me." "I know. You always said that. I know. It used to annoy me." It was usually true. She laughed softly. "Still is." Another night, Daniel brought a small wooden box to the veranda. Inside were carvings he had made over the years. Birds, mostly. Sparrows, swallows, doves. "You kept making them," Clara said. "I suppose I did." "Why birds?" Daniel considered. "Because they leave," he said. "And because sometimes..." Daniel looked at her, and the silence that followed was tender but careful. Spring arrived with rain and green buds on the trees. Clara's strength returned. Color warmed her cheeks. She began walking in the garden each evening, and sometimes Daniel joined her. The staff noticed, of course. Mrs. Vale noticed most of all, but she said nothing. Wise women understand that some stories need quiet to unfold. One April evening, Daniel and Clara walked to the old stone bridge, the bridge where they had first met. The river moved below, bright with sunset. Daffodils grew along the bank. Somewhere nearby, a bicycle bell rang, thin and cheerful, like an echo from another life. Clara touched the stone wall. "I came back here once," she said. "Years ago. Victor was away on business. I stood right there." She pointed to the place where she had once fixed her bicycle chain. "I hoped I would see you," she continued. "Why didn't you come to the workshop?" "I saw your name on the sign, Daniel Hale Fine Furniture. I stood across the street for half an hour." She smiled sadly. "You came outside with a ledger in your hand. You looked tired, strong, older. I wanted to speak, but I had nothing to offer, except an apology I was too proud to give." Daniel watched the current. "I wish you had spoken." "So do I. 30 years is a long silence." "Yes," Clara said, "but not as long as never." Daniel turned toward her. The wind moved gently through her silver-streaked hair. She looked neither like the girl he had lost, nor the stranger who had appeared in his hotel. She looked like both, and more than both. She looked like a person life had broken and remade. "Clara," he said, "I cannot be 17 again. I would not ask you to be. I cannot love without remembering. I would not ask you to forget." He nodded slowly. "What do you ask then?" Clara's eyes shone in the evening light. "Only to be near the truth at last." Daniel reached into his coat pocket. He unfolded the lavender handkerchief. It was thin now, fragile as a dried petal. The embroidered edge faded from years of being touched. Clara inhaled sharply. "You kept it," she whispered. "Yes." "All this time?" "Yes." She reached for it, then stopped. "May I?" Daniel placed it in her hands. Clara held it as if it were something living. Tears slipped down her face, but she did not hide them. "I was loved," she said quietly, "and I was too frightened to understand it." Daniel looked at her hands around the old cloth. "You were loved," he said. "You are loved." The words crossed 30 years and found their way home. Clara closed her eyes. Daniel did not kiss her then. Some moments are too delicate for haste. Instead, he stood beside her as evening settled over Alderbrook, and the river carried the light away in small pieces of gold. After that day, Clara no longer worked as a housekeeper. Daniel offered her a different position, one she tried very hard to refuse. He asked her to manage the flower rooms and guest letters. to place fresh lavender in the suites, to oversee the quiet details that made Hale River House feel less like a hotel and more like a home. "You are inventing a job," she said. "Yes. For me. Yes. That is not proper. Neither is arguing with the owner." She gave him the old Clara look then, the one with sunlight hidden inside it. "You have become very difficult. I had a good teacher." And she laughed. The hotel changed under Clara's touch. Lavender sachets appeared beneath pillows. Fresh wildflowers filled jars along the breakfast tables. Guests found handwritten notes beside their beds, welcoming them by name. The library was rearranged so the softest chairs faced the river. In winter, warm blankets appeared on the veranda. In summer, lemon tarts were served every afternoon. Daniel noticed the tarts immediately. Clara pretended not to. One evening, he found 2 lemon tarts waiting on a small plate in his office. Not 1, 2. He smiled for a long time before eating them. Years did not reverse. Daniel and Clara did not become young again. Their hands remained lined. Their hair remained silvered. Their memories remained full of both sweetness and ache. But love, real love, does not always arrive as thunder. Sometimes it returns as a cup of tea placed beside your chair, as a shawl over your shoulders when you forget the evening chill, as someone remembering how you take your bread, as someone who knows where the old pain lives and walks carefully there. Daniel and Clara spent that summer together too. Not the summer of bicycle chains and fairlights, but another summer, softer and slower. They walked by the river in the mornings. They sat beneath the oak trees in the afternoons. In the evenings, they listened to music from the hotel ballroom, where younger people danced and believed, as young people do, that time was generous. Sometimes Clara would rest her head against Daniel's shoulder. Sometimes Daniel would take her hand. And sometimes neither spoke at all. One warm night in August, exactly 31 years after the summer they had lost, the fair returned to Alderbrook. The Ferris wheel stood at the edge of town, painted red and gold, turning slowly beneath strings of lights. The air smelled of caramel, hay, and rain-damp earth. Music played from a small wooden stage. Daniel and Clara walked through the fair together. People turned to look. Some knew the story. Most did not. To them, Daniel Hale was the wealthy owner of the Grand Hotel, and Clara Ashford was the quiet woman who arranged flowers. They could not see the boy who had once spent his last coins on a ticket, or the girl who had ridden alone into the evening sky. Clara stopped before the Ferris wheel. "Daniel," she said. He already knew. This time, he bought 2 tickets. The attendant helped them into the little wooden seat. The wheel began to turn. Slowly, the ground fell away. The town spread beneath them, small and glowing. The river reflected the moon. The hotel windows shone in the distance like warm stars. Clara looked down, then at Daniel. "You should have come with me the first time," she said. "I told you. I did." She smiled. "Here?" He touched his chest. "Here." Clara took his hand and placed it between both of hers. "I carried you too," she whispered, "even when I did not deserve to." Daniel looked at her, at the girl and the woman, at the summer lost and the summer found. "Clara," he said, "I spent half my life trying not to love you. And I failed." Her eyes softened. "I am glad," she said. At the top of the Ferris wheel, where the night air was cool and the town lay quiet beneath them, Clara leaned close and kissed him. Not on the cheek this time, not as a promise made by two young people who did not yet understand the cost of promises, but gently, honestly, as two souls who had crossed pride, poverty, wealth, silence, regret, and time itself to find one another again. Daniel closed his eyes. For a moment, he was 17. For a moment, she was too. Then the wheel carried them downward, back toward Earth, where all real love must live. They married the following spring. It was not a grand wedding. Clara did not want chandeliers. Daniel did not want newspapers. They stood in the garden of Hale River House beneath blooming apple trees, with the river shining beyond the lawn, and a few close friends gathered quietly around them. Mrs. Vale cried into a handkerchief. The baker made lemon tarts. On a small table near the flowers sat two objects beneath a glass cover: a faded lavender handkerchief and a wooden bird. When Daniel took Clara's hands, he felt them tremble. "Are you afraid?" he whispered. She smiled through tears. "No," she said. "For the first time, I am not." The vows were simple. No promises of perfect happiness. They were too old for such foolishness, and too wise to need it. They promised morning tea. They promised truth. They promised to stay when staying was hard. They promised not to let silence grow taller than love. And when Daniel kissed his bride beneath the apple blossoms, the river moved slowly past, carrying with it the memory of every summer that had ever ended, and every love that had somehow found its way back. In the years that followed, Daniel and Clara became part of Alderbrook's quiet legend. Guests at Hale River House sometimes saw them walking at dusk, hand in hand, along the path beside the river. He, tall and silver-haired, with a cane he pretended not to need. She, graceful and soft-eyed, with lavender pinned at her collar. They were not dramatic people. They did not speak often of the 30 years apart. But every summer, on the first warm evening of June, they walked to the old stone bridge. Clara would touch the wall where a wooden bird had once rested. Daniel would look at the place where a girl with a blue ribbon had asked him about a bicycle chain. "What would you tell him?" Clara asked one evening. "Who?" "The boy you were." Daniel thought for a while. "I would tell him that love can break and still remain love." Clara leaned her head against his shoulder. "And what would you tell the girl I was?" she asked. Daniel's gaze softened. "I would tell her that she was running from fear, not toward happiness." Clara nodded, accepting it. Then Daniel added, "And I would tell her that he waits." Clara closed her eyes. "He waited too long." "No," Daniel said. "He waited exactly until you came home." One night, many years later, when Daniel was very old, he woke before dawn to the sound of rain. The room was dim. Clara slept beside him, her silver hair loose against the pillow. On the bedside table lay the lavender handkerchief, protected now in a small frame, and beside it the wooden bird. Daniel watched the rain draw silver lines down the window. He thought of the bridge, the bicycle, the fair, the white dress, the morning she left, the lobby where she returned, the Ferris wheel turning beneath the moon. He had once believed that being forgotten was the worst sorrow, but life had taught him something stranger. Sometimes people remember each other from opposite sides of a wall, each too proud or too afraid to knock. Clara stirred. "Daniel?" she whispered. "I'm here." She reached for him in the dark, and he took her hand. "Are you happy?" she asked sleepily. He smiled, remembering a misty dawn 30 years before, when he had asked her the same question, and she had answered, "I will be." This time, Daniel did not need to think. "Yes," he said, "I am." Clara's fingers tightened around his. "So am I." Outside, the rain continued softly. The river moved through the sleeping town, and in the quiet room above the garden, Daniel Hale held the hand of the girl he had never forgotten. Not because she had never left, not because she had never hurt him, not because life had been fair, but because love, the deepest kind, does not always disappear when the person walks away. Sometimes it waits beneath the years. Sometimes it grows roots in silence. Sometimes it becomes a house, a bridge, a hotel by a river, a pair of lemon tarts on a small white plate. And sometimes, after 30 long years, it opens the door on a rainy morning and finds the same eyes looking back. The girl he never forgot had finally come home.